Access to Democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, the answer company. The division championship Minnesota Twins are looking to go all the way to the World Series in 2024. Bolstered by inspirational shortstop Carlos Correa, a healthy Brian Buxton, and rookie phenom Royce Lewis, plus a pitching staff led by Pablo Lopez and an outstanding bullpen featuring Johan Duran, the Twins are the best bargain in the major leagues, and Target Field is the best venue in baseball. Sheridan Dulas & Kins, PA, a family and criminal defense law firm, has been serving clients in Dakota County and throughout Minnesota for over 40 years. Ranked a Tier 1 Best Law Firm by U.S. News and World Report every year since 2009, Sheridan Dulas & Kins are here to help you in your most difficult life circumstances. Established in 2007, 45th Parallel Spirits was among the first 50 micro-distilleries in the United States. Based in New Richmond, Wisconsin, all aspects of production occur at our facility. If you're interested in visiting and learning more about the 45th Parallel Distillery, please check our website and plan a visit to tour our facility and taste our spirits. Truestone Financial, with locations in Minnesota and Wisconsin, has proudly served its members since 1939. Truestone engages, educates, and supports its members to ensure they have the tools to empower their financial well-being. Truestone Financial, your neighborhood credit union. Learn more at truestone.org.
Welcome to another episode of Access to Democracy. Thank you for joining us today. I'm your host, Steve Francisco. It's a real pleasure to welcome to the studio today, my first time interviewing her, the principal of Eagan High School, Dr. Polly Reikowski. Polly, welcome to Access to Democracy.
Thank you.
And I should say right at the start, thank you for hosting Eagan Television in this beautiful studio here in Eagan High School.
Mm-hmm. It's been a good cooperative agreement we made. Very nice.
It's a real pleasure for us to be here, and it's a great facility, state-of-the-art television studio. Something that not every high school has.
No, they don't.
Quite sure of that. So, Polly, tell us about your career in education. Where did you start teaching, and what places have you taught in before you became principal of Eagan High School?
I was the second oldest of 10 kids. I started teaching in the basement of our farmhouse.
Oh my goodness.
Your
siblings?
In the summer, I play school with my siblings. So my mom always said I'd be a teacher, and she was right. So I started teaching in Wisconsin for a couple of years up in Wausau. Mm-hmm. And then my whole family was back here, and we were getting married, decided we wanted to live around my family. So then I got a job at Rosemount High School. And then 3 years later, Apple Valley was opening, and I moved to Apple Valley High School as a teacher, debate coach, speech coach, theater director. Then eventually decided to get my doctorate and went into looking into administration, being a principal. Mm-hmm. Wasn't really sure I wanted to do that, but I knew I wanted to have my doctorate. So when Eagan High School was opening, the opening here was for an assistant principal to develop the arts and activities, work with discipline and attendance, work with assessment, work with graduation. Seemed like a really good fit, so I came.
And how long have you been principal of Eagan High School?
2002 until now.
Hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does it seem like the time has passed quickly?
Yes, very, very quickly.
What would you say might be the most significant change at Eagan High School that you've seen since you've been principal?
Well, we've added on to the building a couple times, so physically it's changed. We've modified areas, but I think more importantly, the culture of the building has really developed to be one of kindness and caring and support. Lots of building of strong relationships with our students and with each other, and so much collaborative work. And I'm so proud of the fact that that's where we've grown to. Certainly the demographics of our students changed.
As Eagan has become
Yes,
a more
much
diverse community.
Much more
Yeah.
diverse, yes. We represent the community very, very well, I think. And that's true for our whole school district, the demographics since I began in the district.
So you have
certainly
some
changed.
students who maybe have arrived at Eagan High School with English as their second language, or
Yes.
they're learning English,
Yes,
right?
we have a continuous group of those students arriving.
And what
yes.
countries are they coming from?
Mexico, Kenya, Ethiopia. Some of them are coming from Guatemala, from Nicaragua, from Honduras. So all kinds of stories of kids arriving from all over the place, trying to make an effort to live in the United States.
That's great. How many students are currently enrolled at Eagan High School?
Officially, we have 2,245, but some of them attend the School of Environmental Studies.
Yes.
As juniors and seniors, they have the option of going there. So our count for staffing is 2,211.
Right, and we are located, we should say, people may know this, Independent School District 196, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
4 high schools, a smaller high school at SES, 26 elementaries, 6 middle schools, lots of other buildings for early childhood, ALC, right? We're on the north end of the school district here.
So in terms of enrollment trends, has the enrollment at Eagan High School increased in recent years? Has it declined, or is it staying pretty much steady?
We're staying quite steady. Before Eastview was built, was our largest group of students, and then once they were built, pretty much everything south of Cliff Road went to Eastview, even though they were Eagan students. And then our population since then has stayed quite steady, anywhere from 2,150 to 2,250, right in that range.
And how many full-time faculty do you have here?
Gosh, we have, I think, 98 full-time teachers, and then we have some part-time people as well.
And support staff, secretaries,
When you count
janitors,
everybody,
assistants?
like cooks, custodians, clerical, para, professionals, we're at about 152.
How are teachers selected or assigned to particular schools? I wanted to ask you that because I realized in
Sure.
preparing for this interview, I thought, how does a teacher become a teacher at Eagan High School?
They apply for a job. We post our positions at a district level, but each school gets to post their own. We all get to staff our own buildings, so we are allotted a certain number of full-time teacher positions.
And you interview them? They go through an interview
right,
process?
Here. And we can choose to spend a certain number in art or a certain number in tech ed, and we base that on what students have chosen to take for courses. So everyone takes English, social studies, science, math, but then we have many, many other programs like world languages and
So-called electives.
so-called
right?
electives
Yeah.
that students also take, along with some other required things like Phy Ed and health and arts credits and all of that. But we are allowed in our district to staff our buildings and to post jobs and interview, and we hire. And people can choose to apply to transfer from school to school, but again, we interview and hire for that.
Does that happen very often, Polly? Do teachers, once they arrive at Eagan High School, do your faculty tend to stay?
I'm going to brag and say they tend to stay.
I
yes.
suspected that might
Eagan
be
High
the
School
case.
people don't want to leave Eagan High School.
I suspected that as well. Well, and I think the reason is this high school clearly has a reputation for academic excellence. Speaking of that, how do Eagan High School students perform on standardized tests that evaluate academic knowledge?
Yeah, our juniors are consistently quite high above the state and national average for things like the ACT, and we typically have the highest scores
Math, English.
in our school district.
Yeah, that's really great. And Eagan High School has some very special programs too. We previously had on, forgive me, I forget his name, the director of the STEM program here with the robotics program.
Dave Hendrickson.
was a guest on our program
Yes.
about a year or two ago, and they brought a student in one of the robots. So you have science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the robotics competition, and students from Eagan High School have won national awards
Oh, yes.
in competitions for this.
Both the big robots and the small robots.
Right, right.
Yes.
And I actually came to the high school one day on a Saturday at the urging of our friend Senator Jim Carlson. He said, Steve, you should go over there tomorrow because they're going to have the robotics competition and you're going to see these robots the students have built.
It's probably 0 week.
It was really wonderful.
It
and
is
to
pretty
see how
wonderful.
excited the kids were to be learning and what they themselves had created.
Right. They do a lot of programming, building, but they also do a lot of outreach work to other age groups like Lego robotics,
Right,
elementary
right.
robotics. So there's a whole, First Robotics is a program that really believes in commitment to the community.
Right.
And the students do a lot of service as well as the fun of building and competing with a robot. We have a Science Olympiad team that just won state and is headed for
Congratulations.
nationals.
Wow.
So that's a huge thing. We have a very good math team. You know, when we talk about the parts of
Yes.
this,
Yeah.
certainly in our tech ed department, our technical education department, which when I was in high school was largely welding and woods, we still have those programs, but now we have graphic design and illustration, architectural design. So many programs that are STEM focused.
That's really fantastic. And again, we should mention television production.
Yeah,
here we are in a studio, and one of your faculty here, Paul Saxton, runs a program helping students to learn about television production. That's
Correct.
really a unique offering, I would think,
is,
among
yes.
any high school.
And they really experience live broadcasting.
Right.
What does it feel like to be sitting here reading the teleprompter and making the show happen in a limited amount of time?
Right.
Right.
And so they have a program that is broadcast during the school day, or several programs, right? Updating students on activities,
Yep.
perhaps about sports activities.
Once a week.
Once a week.
And they do feature stories as well as, you know, like the Wildcat Report on sports and
Right.
things like that. So they might do a feature on an upcoming production like Encore or on the Polar Plunge, the Special Olympics effort that's going to happen. Those are stories they choose to cover. But sometimes they do things like, what is your favorite tradition at, you know, this holiday or something, just goofy, fun stuff. The kids that are in the program are in it all year long, and they take different roles in the production staff throughout the year. So they really get a hands-on look at writing, producing, speaking, doing all the control issues.
And that's really wonderful. And we are going to be doing a program. Paul Saxton has agreed to do a program with a student, I believe, coming up in May.
Fun.
So our
Good.
viewers can look forward to seeing
Yep.
that. I want to ask you about foreign language offerings. You know, we hear so much about we live in an interdependent world. Our connections are not just local, they're global. And so what foreign language offerings does Eagan High School offer?
The world languages that we offer are German, French, and Spanish. And there's good, solid enrollment in all of them. German doesn't start until high school, but French and Spanish, some students are already taking in 7th and 8th grade.
And I should say my first exposure to French as a high school student in Minneapolis was French class at Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis.
Cool.
And it prompted me to continue my education further in French when I went to college
Nice.
too.
I took Latin.
Yeah, Latin
Latin's great. Not a lot of people speak it though, but
comes in handy in the legal profession.
and
it
it comes
turns
in
out.
handy if you're an English teacher, and that's
Right.
what I did.
Right. So tell us about the ACT and pre-ACT testing, ACT being the American College Test, is that correct, the acronym?
Yeah.
That you have a program here where it's available to students in Eagan High School. Tell us about that.
Actually, in our entire school district, the district purchases the ACT for all juniors in our high schools to take, and we do that in this month. In fact, it's Tuesday. And then at the same time, the pre-ACT is given to sophomores, and that helps them predict the areas they are great at and the areas they need to improve to do even better a year later on the ACT. So these are scores that some colleges have chosen to not use so much during the COVID time period, but they're kind of coming back into play again. And our students do really benefit from that, not having to buy that test on their own or their family purchasing it. The other thing we offer is in their junior year, they can take a trimester course to prepare for the ACT. And we've been offering that for a number of years. And that we believe that that improves their scores.
And we have how many high schools in ISD 196?
4.5.
4.5, and Eagan High School obviously being one of them.
Yeah,
but that's available at all of those
the high schools
in the district.
Funded by our district, yes.
That's really interesting. So some students, not everyone necessarily goes on to college. I was going to ask you about that. What percentage of your students after graduation go on to pursue higher education? And what percent perhaps choose to go a different route, pursuing technical or vocational education?
The technical vocational education has definitely increased over the past years. Part of that is the college costs going up so much. And another part is I think more and more students are interested in finding out about other careers, that they can go to a technical college, for instance, and be certified to be an electrician or a plumber. If they like that kind of work. We have a construction trades class where students learn a lot of those skills, and so that kind of fires up their interest. So we're at about 84% of our seniors going to either 2 or 4-year colleges or universities, and the rest are either technical school, the military, or even taking a year before they do something else and earning some money.
Right, and for those who choose to go into the military, they're able to take advantage of the GI Bill, which helps pay for further education.
Right,
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, which is a really great benefit for them. So when we talk about trades, crafts, mechanical, healthcare, these are some of the professions that people may choose to go into too after they're done at Eagan High School, getting their foundation, if you will.
We always hope they want to be educators.
Yeah.
Got a strong bias about, couldn't you be a teacher? You could be a teacher.
I want to ask you about that. I circle back to what we were talking about earlier. Do you find that there is a surge of interest in people wanting to go into education? Because it seems in the news we sometimes hear reports of people, maybe more people leaving the profession. And does it really depend on where that school district is or what the schools are? I've heard some concerns about in urban schools, maybe more teachers choosing to leave the profession.
Yeah. Finding it a difficult career.
Right. My sister happened to teach in Minneapolis, but had to, ended up leaving the profession there, pursuing other endeavors. But do you find it difficult to recruit people to teach here?
We do not. And I think that is a hallmark of our school district. Teachers want to come and teach in our school district. They want to live in our school district. It's known for its schools. It's known for its taxpayers supporting the schools and not having to cut budgets constantly, and we're extremely grateful for the support we get from the communities.
I was going to ask you about that. There was a recent bond and levy referendum that the voters in Independent School District 196 approved. Tell us about that. How much money was on the table or made available to the schools, and how is it being spent?
I'll just take Eagan, for example. Eagan is one of the 4 large high schools, and one of the items on that referendum was activity centers for each of the 4 high schools. So the whole idea being more space for practices, FIAD, performances, maybe even a robotics competition. Because we really here at Eagan have the same gym we had when we opened, and that is really inadequate for the number of students we have.
Which was what, 1980?
1990.
1990.
Yeah, September of 1990 was opening date for this building.
Yes, and we should tell people too, in case they don't know, you are actually connected, physically connected to Dakota Hills Middle School.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and there are students at Dakota Hills that walk over to the high school for some enhanced learning. They're at a high enough level of mathematics, for instance, that they're in our high school calculus classes, or they might be in a French class that's like level 2, 3, or 4. So we have a nice connection with students being able to come over for our first period classes here at Eagan.
Very nice. And I understand that the bond and levy referenda also has made available money for you to update your science classroom.
Yes,
Say a
thank
word
goodness.
about that.
So in 2004-05, they added on some science classrooms to our building because our chemistry labs needed to be much, much improved. But then all of the rest of the science rooms stayed as they were built. And so gradually we'd been remodeling them. And once we passed the bond and levy, we knew that that was coming. So we are working with the architectural firm right now on which rooms will get rebuilt and remodeled and how soon that can happen. We're hoping it will be the summer of 2026.
Not too far away.
Not too far away. So we're just in the beginning of the planning
Just
for
a
those.
little over a year from now.
Right.
But the planning, of course, to actually bring it from planning to fruition
Right.
takes a while.
Right. And then there's safety and security upgrades, rebuilding the camera system, enhancing all of that security in the buildings, providing that support that all of our buildings need to keep up with in order to have a safe school environment. So there's some of that. There were some furnishings for students and faculty in all the buildings. So we have much more movable furniture and furniture that where students sit up high or sit at a desk height. Some wonderful improvements for teachers with technology, and it's just been a really good, large. It's the largest levy referendum bond issue that's been passed.
And I understand, Polly, that there is also money. Well, there's a new Rosemount middle school that's
Yeah.
going to be opening in 2027, I think it is.
2027. My oldest grandchild will be able to go there as a sixth grader.
How
Isn't that
about
cool?
that? And Emerald Trail Elementary School, there's also a school under construction that's opening this fall.
We hope so. Yeah, it's over off Akron Avenue in Rosemount.
Right, right.
And
very
it's
good.
well underway.
So a lot of changes. You know, I'm thinking back to the earlier question I asked you about what are some of the biggest changes you've seen since you became principal, and it just strikes me that perhaps one of the biggest changes might have been the advances in technology, that we live in a whole different world in terms of computers and iPads than when the school opened.
Right.
Technology has advanced, so the school has been able to keep up with these changes in technology too?
And we passed a tech levy, a technology levy. We're in our 10th year of that. It was a 10-year levy. So now the decision has to be, how do we put that out there again for our taxpayers, and should we put that out there again? That provided the ability for every student to have an iPad, to be able to work on our Wi-Fi system, which of course had to be stepped
Upgraded,
up to make
right.
that happen.
Right.
Apple TVs in every classroom, TV screens in every classroom that are large like the one behind us, all of that technology. I should brag a little bit that when our building was built, the previous principal was so devoted to technology enhancing education that we were known as a technology school, and we were an Apple showcase school. We had tours constantly with people looking at how we were using computers with students.
Did Apple donate any products
Well,
to you, or
they
did
gave
you have
us-
to buy everything?
They gave us a very, very good offer and a very, very good deal. They were competing with other vendors.
Sure.
And
That's
so
very good.
Apple became the winner, and we then became a demonstration site for them.
Right,
So for a while, we were like way ahead of the curve and kind of have tried to stay there,
Right.
truthfully. Trying to give our teachers and students the tools they need. And when COVID hit, we were ready
Yeah.
because we had that.
So did students have iPads, or were they using computers, their
iPads.
PCs at home? They had iPads for instruction when perhaps school wasn't open during
Right.
the height of COVID.
Totally.
Because we've heard so much about how many students in different school districts perhaps fell behind, that
Right.
they missed the in-person instruction, and subsequently you saw test scores perhaps fall from where they had been. But it sounds like that wasn't necessarily the case with Eagan High School.
I think we all can see a difference in those students that were at home for any length of time, some longer than others. It really did take a bite out of their learning, I believe, and it was difficult. It's difficult to get a 11-year-old to actually focus on in-person instruction online, right? Teachers struggled, students struggled. Thank goodness Zoom appeared on the scene and we were able to use that, but it certainly never could replace in-person instruction.
It just strikes me that, I mean, we've all been students in a classroom. We remember our educational experiences, and there's something about the dynamic of being in a classroom, having an instructor in front of you, having the interactions between students asking questions and responding. It's a whole different dynamic, and it's richer doing it in person too.
I've tried teaching online in grad school.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it at all.
I have friends, I've been an adjunct professor at Hamlin a few years back, and I have friends who were doing that during COVID when there were no in-person classes, and they said they felt that the instruction and learning suffered during that time too.
Even adults have a hard time with it.
That's right.
Maybe it's great for some people, but I think it's very difficult for students. They need people around them. They need their peers. They need those interactions. They need that social interaction. They need the fun, and the students were so lonely.
Right.
They were just so lonely out there.
Right. I want to ask you, we're getting down to about the last 3 minutes, but I want to ask you, Polly, about some things happening with education at the federal level. As you're well aware, the Trump administration is moving to dismantle the federal Department of Education. What do you see as the potential impact of that here in Minnesota? Do you see any impact, and what is it?
Well, I can't say we're not concerned about it. We are. About 11% of our school district's funding comes from the federal government. A lot of it is, dedicated to meeting the needs of, for instance, special education. It certainly doesn't cover the total cost, but 11% is still 11%, right? And we know we have to provide for those learners, and that would take more money out of our school district budget if we had to make up that amount and that cost. We'd hate to lose it. We'd hate to lose the support. Also, that whole department was constructed fairly recently, within the time I've been principal, and we've had some real benefits out of that, some growth and some wonderful programming and research that helps us be better at education. So I'm very sad to see that happen.
I've heard a lot of people talking about this, and there seems to be some misunderstanding of what the Federal Department of Education actually does, too. I've heard people say, well, we need to return control of curriculum to local school districts instead of having Washington dictate it. But Washington never has dictated it. My understanding, when the department was created, it's actually written into the legislation that it's still up to local school boards to determine curriculum.
And the state.
And the state of Minnesota.
Right.
So it still has local input from parents and elected school board members.
State standards, state benchmarks, but how you deliver the instruction to reach those benchmarks and cover those standards is up to the local schools.
And aside from federal funding, is there a need for the Minnesota legislature to pass an omnibus funding bill to make sure our schools have enough resources?
Absolutely. It's how we get funded, and I know they're not there yet, even with the bill on the floor, but they're working on it.
Right.
It is essential to have the omnibus bill.
Fortunately, Minnesotans have a historic tradition, I think. I mean, it's what's made us a national leader in public education, that Minnesotans from way back in our history have supported the idea of public education, that everyone's child ought to have a good education, and good education leads to a good life for most people.
School is for everyone, belonging is for everyone, community, we need to support the learners. Everyone sends us the best child they have, and we need to give them everything they need to succeed. That's our mission. That's what we need to do.
Very well put. Dr. Polly Reikowski, principal of Eagan High School, thank you for being our guest today on Access to Democracy. Congratulations to you and your faculty and staff here for the tremendous job you do of educating young people for the future.
Thank you. It's great.
And thank you, our viewers, for watching Access to Democracy. You'll find more of our programs at accesstodemocracy.com.